Okay, so I thought I'd do a quick video on how to do lifts in UnrealEd 3.0. So first of all, let's start off with an environment we can work in. So just 1024 will do. Choose the texture before I subtract. Abaddon, that'll do. That's my normal starting block. So let's subtract that environment. We want somewhere to be able to do a lift. Before I go anywhere else, let's make sure I'm locked to the grid and that I've got a grid of 1. Let's just line up the boxes and say we want a step. So I'll subtract that. Now I want a lift to go from here to there, so let's do 128 by 128. I need to know the distance. If I hold down my shift key and I press my middle mouse, I can use a rule, and it's telling me 346, so I'll change the height to 346. It's not that accurate, but whatever. So let's create that. Obviously 344. So that will do, and if I subtract that, so here's a place for my lift to go. The texture can be confusing because it's all the same texture at the moment. So let's go back into texture browser, and if I just select backgrounds, and just change those so we can kind of see what we're on. Give it a bit more definition. Okay, so now I want a lift in here. Well, I guess I've got to create one. So I already know it's 128. Let's create a lift that's 16 deep. So this is going to be my lift platform to move. Let's texturize it. Again, I'll use, well, see, this is the default textures that you come with when you first open UnrealEd, but there are a lot more textures than this. If I actually go, and this is Abaddon architecture, if I actually go and open up Abaddon architecture, you'll see there are tons and tons of images you can use. Yeah, so let's use this one as a lift, we'll say. So I'm just going to build that. I'm going to select all the surfaces because this is tiny and that one is huge. So select matching texture. Change the surfaces to, what is that? 1024 by 1024, and I've got a 128. So yeah, that'll do. We can texturize it any way you want to, but that'll do for our example. So let's go and find my lift. Obviously a lift can't be a brush, it has to be a static mesh, so I'm going to convert it to a static mesh. Have to put it into my level and call it my lift, for instance. Convert. So let's go and find it wherever I put it, which is in my level, and here is my lift. I'll get rid of this one because I no longer need the brush. So that's that gone. I shall quickly build the geometry, so there it is gone. So now I need to import this. Normally if I just imported it, it would be a straight static mesh like this, but that's no good. Straight static mesh is not going to go up and down, so that's no good, so I need to delete that. But what I can do is create user mover. So it says add mover, brush, whatever, so I can do a mover or a client mover. I tend to do movers. You could do a client mover, but a client mover is on a mover, so I tend to do just a mover. The mover will always go back into where the brush was created. You can see it's pretty black, and that's because we've got no ambient lighting. So we do need to add some ambient lighting so we can actually see it. I'm going to add a zone info, and then I'm going to go into the zone info light properties. Just because it's a brand new map, I could always relight it after, but I'm just going to change the ambient to 20. If I actually built geometry again, you can see that now it's got some, well, it's obviously got 20 ambient lighting, which is good enough for me for the moment. So let's put our lift where we want our lift to be, which is in here. And we'll put it at the start because we want to go from lower floor to upper floor. So there you go. Now we need to make it move. So if we go into the mover, in key number you've got 0. If you change that to 1 and then move it to the position that you want it to end up as, which is there. If I do key 2, then it goes back to where it was. So we have got key 0, and we've got key 1, which is great. So that's our mover in there. So what we're going to do is mover encroach type, which means if I encroached it, it would return. So if it was already halfway up and I encroached it, it would go back to here, which is not very good. So I'm going to ignore when encroach. And how do you want it to move? Do you want it to move by time, glide by time, or move by time? You normally do a glide by time would be it starts off slow, gets faster, and then slows down towards the end. So that's a glide. Move by time, it will just move whatever time you set. So here's the move time, and it will just move from one point to the next point in 1 second, which most people kind of do, but it depends on the size of the lift, to be honest. If there's a small lift, you tend to do glide. If it's a big lift, then you might do move. I don't know. It's your choice. Anyway, like I said, we got a maximum of 2 keys because you got 1 and then we got 2. So like it says here, the number of keys is 2. If I used another kind of mover to do something, then it might have more positions than just 2. And we have stay open time. That's the amount of time that it stays. Once it's moved to the top, it will stay there for 4 seconds before returning. So again, you can change that time. The other important thing is, how do we make it so that when a player goes onto it, that we actually move? Well, there's a couple of other things here, which is I could use triggered, true or false. which means I could put in a trigger. Well, let's just do the normal one first, so before we get into that, and I'll show you a trigger afterwards. So the object, if I go to the object, it's not part of a group. The initial state is bump open timed, which means I would have to hit it, or a player would have to hit it. Player, pawn, whatever, would have to hit it before it moved. Well, that's no good. So I need it to be stand open timed, which means that when I stand on it, it will move, because it'll know that I'm still on it. So that's great. The next thing is we need to well, there's two things here. One is you can see that it's got a step. Sometimes that step can be a bit too thick, and it might actually be a pain for you to reach it without jumping on top of it. So what we really want to do is bury this mover so it's as flat to the floor as the rest of the floor is. I've already got my dimensions in here. Oh no, sorry, that was those dimensions. So so let's measure this again. It was I think it's 340 something. Yeah, 344 plus my 16. Jesus. So 360. So let's build this again. Oh, I went too far. Damn. Minus 16. What the hell was I doing? I don't know. Oh, of course. Oh, this is why it's so easy to mess up. You can get your head in a mess sometimes. Of course, I want it that deep. So I'm going to get rid of the original one, because this now is going down here, and I'm going to subtract. So now, as you can see, I still had that other texture selected. Not that it really matters, but if I just do copy, select matching texture, yeah, that's another thing that happens quite often, is I need to go into the alignment and reset it as default. While we're here, you can actually see there's now a no, there isn't, because build geometry. So let's go and put him back. I've moved my mover down 16, so I need to reset my mover. So I already have, because this is still set as 0. Now when I set to 1, you can see it's the 16 below. So I need to move it back up to there. And set it back. So that's much better. Let's move that out of the way. Now I need to path it so that bots and everybody else knows that it's a mover, knows that it's a lift, and knows where it's going. So let's do navigation. So I'm going to add a lift center. Believe it or not, I can't add a lift center here. There's a static mesh. But I can move it there. I need a lift exit here, and I need a lift exit here. I need so I need to move my lift center into the lift center. The lift center needs to know what it's moving, where's the lift. So it's got a lift tag. My mover, if I go into events, is tag mover. If I go into objects, it's mover 0. So if I set the tag to mover 0, I can just copy that, but then take my lift center and tell it that it is mover 0. There is no lift trigger. If I had a lift trigger, then I would add that trigger there, which again I'll show you in a minute. And again, the lift exits, they need to know what lift they're going to be using. So again, lift tag move 0. Oop. So let's add a path node here and a path node over there. So that's all happy. So let's build our paths, and we can see what our paths look like because if I go into here, so you can see that that path is very happy. It knows exactly where the lift exit is and where the center is and where that exit is. So that's a good path. Okay, that's great. What about if I wanted a second jump? So let's redo this. What's the easiest way of doing this? If I just change the scale of this. Bring me back down. Let's just build that. Instead of building another one, I'm just going to paste it straight on top. Let's give myself a gap. Again, I'll give it a 16. So that'll do. Build geometry. So now I've got 2 levels. So now I need a space for it to jump up to. So let's just do a 128 and put it in as a 16 again. Go and find my brush. Oop. You can see because I just copied it, it doesn't align anymore, which is why it's always better to actually remake it. In actual fact, that's pretty bad. So now to align it, I need to take off the grid, put the grid back on. Yeah, so yeah, we're above, so let's go and subtract again. So now I've got a hole. Let's build geometry again. So now I want it so that if a player comes on this, not only can he go up to this level, but he can also go up to this level. So that means there's 2 lift exits. So let's go back to our lift exits and put a lift exit on here. Now this lift exit, it's going to be the same again as in it's going to be the mover 0, but now we can say it's a lift jump exit, because I'd have to jump as soon as that lift comes high. If I jump at the right time, I should have enough momentum to be able to carry on and jump through to this second level. So this level is going to be a keyframe of 2, because it's the second level, and also this is going to have it's going to be a lift jump exit, not just a straight lift moving up to that point. So again, if I build the AI paths, you can see that now it works. Again, I can put a path node in there if you really wanted to. Build AI paths. So again, you can see it's perfectly happy for it to be a lift jump exit. Okay, just the last quick one is, instead of having this as stand open timed, let's make it a trigger open timed instead. So let's go and find our trigger. So triggers, and it's just a straight trigger. Sorry, straight trigger. So let's add my trigger. Let's put it on the center. Again, it needs to know that the trigger tag, sorry, that is trigger 0. The event that it's going to do is what happens when you hit that trigger. So the event is going to be mover 0. If I go into the trigger, I want it initially active always, yes. Trigger once only. No, I want it triggered all the time. We use this in like assault and everything else. If you only want one event to happen once. Class proximities. Sometimes that can be helpful, so that you can use a mover to trigger a trigger, whatever. Sometimes you want a message, not necessary for a lift. And player proximity. So you want it for players. You could just have it for bots. Classes shoot. You could make it so that a trigger can be shot. Human player, yeah, all sorts. But this would work again as a straight trigger. So that's it. Cheers.